Welcome everybody to the second webinar of AIR, the S+T+ARTS project, which is a collaborative project of 8 different consortium partners. And today we want to enlighten you a bit on our project. When there are still people entering, we do want to start with you with going shortly what we're going to discuss with you today. So I will shortly welcome you to AIR on behalf of the whole consortium and introduce them. Then my colleague Fernando will tell you more about the 2 directions we have in this open call and the underlying 6 challenges, followed up by Alessandro, who will explain more about the 4 hubs and also how the residencies will take place. Then I will tell you a bit more about the evaluation criteria and the second stage of this open call. And then there is enough room for Q&A to answer all your questions, which you might still have after our presentation. So if you in the meantime already have questions on something that we already presented, please share them in the chat and we will we'll get back to them at the end. So our S+TARTS project is compiled of 8 different project partners from 5 different countries. You will meet them during our presentations within the different countries and the hubs. All together, they have formulated different directions and challenges on which we are inviting you to discuss and explore with us the AIR concept. So if we talk about AIR, it's a collaboration within the S+TARTS family, which means science, technology, and the arts. And it's a joint effort where we want to bring our scientists, our art-driven innovation mentors, our institutes, our high-performance computer centers, and of course, our artists together to work upon new artistic explorations about new avenues which we can explore within the AIR concept. Because AIR is something that is invisible to all of us. It's something we breathe, something we are surrounded around with. And within this team, which we all want to have our own affiliation with and how we can survive in this AIR within Europe, we see a uniting entity for all of us to collaborate. And within the challenges, Fernando will explain more how this AIR is going to be playing a vital role in what we want to explore with you, but also what we want to experiment with you to get a better understanding about what it is and how we can relate and understand the intertwined concepts that are related to AIR. So within our open call format, you can read much more about what we understand with that within our guide for applicants, where we want you to reflect upon, but the best way to get that clear is to listen a bit more to what are our 2 directions. So I would like to give the floor to Fernando.
Thank you, Lilia, and thank you everybody for connecting in this hot summer day. So I was talking about the directions that we have. So everything I would say, please remember, this is our informal interpretation, our take. Let's say you have here the opportunity to ask questions and to find out more about this. But it's very important that you remember that you have to read the guides. So there we have all the material, and that's the reference point that we will start. So there are 2 stages. On these first stages, you will have to just send your vision or reflection on one of the challenges we propose. Notice that there are 2 directions of research, right? So we have identified in these 2 directions open challenges where the scientists working with us in the team are interested or need maybe the collaboration with an artist. The idea here is that you will be able to connect or willing, or maybe you're interested in one of these challenges or directions, and so you have to give us your vision, your reflection on this challenge. What is your motivation or your take on this? So what would you do with this? So notice, please, that these challenges that I will explain now are very wide, actually, and a little bit vague, and they overlap with different partners inside the consortium. So in this sense, you can indicate some preference about where you might want to work or with whom, but matching with the scientists working on the area will be done later in the second stage of the call. Okay, so let's get into this. So on the first direction, so the AIR in urban ecosystems, we're working with the air as a metaphor for everything that is invisible in the city. So please go back one slide, I think I'm still in the introduction part of this direction. See, here we are talking about air, of course, right? So the actual air, but we are actually referring to things that are in the air, in the city, like everything that is invisible in the city, things that are transported by air, like pollution, sound, heat, maybe radio waves, but also we're thinking about intangible things that relate maybe to society in general, all the things that are invisible that make a city a city, okay? So that's what we want to talk about, what we want to do when we talk about air. So now, yes, let's go to the 3 challenges that we have in this direction. So for the first one, we are proposing to explore the idea of sound in the city. So what will be the role of sound in modeling future cities? And here we're going back to our experience with what happened with sound in cities, how they were designed, and actually nobody thought about that very much until very recently. So now that we know that we can actually improve or make worse the experience of life in the city just with sound, we're questioning, can we design these urban experiences in the future through sound? How can this idea be incorporated into urban planning? And how will cities of the future sound like? For instance, if we can design this sound and taking into account that cities will change, for instance, if we move into electric mobility, if we have electric cars, those devices sound very differently than the ones that we have right now. And we have an opportunity of designing that sound and making it better for the cities and for the citizens living there. But the idea is that we can transform urban spaces through sound. And there's an opportunity, actually, sound as well as other senses, maybe smell and some other experiences can be incorporated into this. Our second challenge is about virtual replicas of city. It's a term that is very hot right now in the research space. It's called a digital twin. And it's basically a virtual replica of a device, in this case, a city. And it's a new tool. It's being created right now as we speak. So there are very few that are called commercial digital twins of a city, and actually they are not fully developed yet. There are many on research stages yet. And these urban digital twins are being created to design the future cities where we will live. And they incorporate many artificial intelligence and complex visualization engines. It's a very sophisticated, let's say, digital device. Imagine that you can see the idea is to simulate a whole city inside of a computer and to try out scenarios and different things that you can want to see what the consequences are of urban planning, for instance. And because they are being created right now, we also have an opportunity to incorporate things that we know have failed in previous technology development, right? So here we have a challenge that is we can create these tools so that they are better to use. So their inside assumptions, their interfaces, the way they are used, and we want to explore all of these things, not just on the technology side, because we want to make sure that these tools that are going to be used to design the cities and the lives of people, they are used for good, that they incorporate all perspectives of lives, and they design fair futures for everybody, right? So here we have many opportunities and ideas of where an artist can play a role, just from the visual part, just maybe working with how do you make an interface for such a complex things, but also from the social sides and how to incorporate different social issues, how to detect bias, how to reduce the impact of different urban interventions. For instance, maybe we have one of the investigators in our teams doing impact of urban cars on mental health. This is the type of examples and of projects that you can do with a digital twin of a city. And finally, we have our third challenge here, which is multisensory urban experiences. How can we transform urban ecosystems through our senses? And in this challenge, this is a very interesting challenge. We have sight, sound, smell, and touch. All of our senses, they can be combined in such a way that they alter our perceptions in indoor and public spaces. So remember, we're talking about urban ecosystems here. They can be a full city, but they can also be maybe a plaza, squares, or different smaller parts of the city, public spaces. And here we can improve the experience in those places by combining all of these senses. The challenge here is an exploration to design the multisensory environmental experiences, maybe create with them a multisensory interface that augments our information communication through multiple channels. One example here, for instance, would be how we can have devices with haptic response to sound, and maybe combine them with artificial reality or virtual reality immersion experiences. So we have partners here and working on these lines, and we think that an artist could certainly improve a lot these projects and move them forward. So now for our second direction, let's go to our next slide. We are talking about here human AI ecosystems. And the idea is that we are basically right now flooded, inundated with algorithms in our daily lives, and there are going to be more and more of them. So we need to start stop for a little bit and thinking, how are we going to live with these algorithms? How do we want them to be incorporated in our lives? We want to create an ecosystem that is good and fair, and it's also useful and pleasant for everybody. So the idea is that many of these challenges is that what's going to happen is that AI-powered systems are going to become more and more invisible. So they're going to be in the air around us, and they will influence more and more also our lives in many ways. Many of them we already know how they do that. So they have influence in the way you get a loan for a bank, and maybe the taxi that you take, and what food you eat, and certainly what movies you watch on streaming services and so on. So these algorithms are becoming more invisible, and they influence more and more of your decisions and every day. And so we are thinking that it's interesting right now to stop and design new ways of living with these algorithms and using them for these complex technical tasks to help us live better, but also for creative activities, not just making decisions about everyday stuff, but also for creative activities. And here we have 3 challenges as well in this direction. One of them is on the context of personalized medicine. First one is, how will the digital twin of a respiration system changes? So I told you the concept of a digital twin is very hot right now in research spaces, and one of these is for a personalized medicine. So creating a virtual replica of a person with data that we can measure from them, and testing on this person different operations, medicines, and so on. There are many around. In our consortium, we have some researchers working on a few different organs. So here, the idea of just respiration is because it's the one that is closest to the concept of air and the project. But I saw there were some questions about maybe doing other things, that biomedicine and genetics. I just wanted to make a quick pause here and tell you, we welcome your take on these challenges and these directions. And we want to see how you would drive them to where you are researching or where you want to work. But it's very important that you also make an effort to see what's available and what we are thinking, to see if you can actually fit your research into this. If it's something that we can accommodate, and maybe you can ask the questions, but in general, it's going to be very difficult to do something like genetics, for instance, if we are talking about respiration and on different organs on the human being. So this is something that maybe you might want to work to adapt the different lines of research that you're working on to the challenges that we are posing. So in this sense, in the first challenge, the personalized medicine, the digital twin of respiration is the current challenge that we have. What you're seeing there is in this short video on top is data from simulations done on supercomputers on human respiration. Many of them were done during the pandemic, so trying to understand how medicine and different diseases can transmit by respiration. And we got confronted with a very hard challenge that we don't know how to use these tools very efficiently. So the digital twin, the supercomputing simulations, all of these things together are quite hard to put together for scientists and for policymakers. And we really need to understand best ways to use the digital twins of a person. And we have been also talking to some people that are interested in the idea of how will we as citizens, as people, interact with our virtual replicas. So if the digital twin concept goes forward and we have more and more digital twins of ourselves, eventually we will be able to interact with them. And right now in technology, we have a little bit of that, a glimpse of what the future will have, which is this social media or apps that have a little bit of a profile of you with maybe health data or maybe some of your preferences for some entertainment and whatever. So those are the proto digital twins of yourself that we're thinking about what will we have in the future. And this, as you can imagine, might have some impact in the relationship that we have with our bodies and our lifestyles, right? So respiration, pollution, and the impact on different people are the things that can be applied to this particular challenge. But the concept of the digital twin of a person is also one that we're interested in. Second challenge is the one in the middle. So how can we create a human AI ecology? And here, this is slightly related to what we talked about a minute ago in cities. So how are we going to integrate the algorithms in our lives? But this is more general. So this is just not spaces and in cities or public spaces. This is algorithms in general. And we're thinking here that the air or the space around us, the environment, will be so embedded with AI that maybe the interface with these algorithms will be seamless, and the interface is almost the space. So AI here is, we want to think that it's a tool that will become a collaborator with us, not just in decision making, but also in creation activities. And here we're thinking about examples where the short video and all of the videos here, I forgot to mention, are just examples of things that we have already done in the past. So don't take them as the thing that we will want you to do. These are just things that we already have done. So this is not what we want to do in the future. But here you see what happens when a lot of people interact with a very huge interface, and they have to make decisions and work together collaboratively to create something, to solve a puzzle. So in this sense, imagine as an example for these challenges, a space or environments that become the interface, or maybe you can work with the, designing new ways or helping us design new ways to co-create with artificial intelligence, to co-create music, different types of contents, how these new, very in vogue right now, algorithms that make images and sound and text can be incorporated into the work process of an artist and a scientist. And this can be from the conceptual level, so we're interested in this, but we're also interested in more low-level things, like maybe creating a sound plugin for ChatGPT or any other large language model. So the challenge is to think about the ecology, the ecosystem of the humans and AI working together. And finally, our final challenge here is how can we redraw the boundaries of perception? And in line with the previous challenge, where we are thinking that we're going to live surrounded by algorithms and doing things with them all the time, we also know that we don't have just sight and maybe hearing as communication channels. Our perception includes many other senses, and we have to push this because we as humans communicate a lot through many of these channels all the time. And for AI to be ubiquitous, to be everywhere, it means that it can use all of these channels to communicate with us. And they can, so we were thinking of the issue of redesigning the interaction of AI so that these algorithms can also take into account not just these communication channels, the 5 that you know about, but also the other ones that include our emotions, our ethics and moral perspectives at the point, and different senses that are not so common, like, I don't know, proprio sense and this type of things that we know, we feel they are there, and AI can maybe use to work with us. And here we want, the challenge is to explore our perception and senses to create this interaction that will also lead us to explore and understand maybe other species and how they live in the world with us, and how their perceptions and senses are different from ours, and how it makes the other animals and species in our world see the world through those senses and perception in a different way, right? So, and in this case, I'm also including artificial intelligence as maybe another species that we will be coexisting with. Okay, so in this challenge, we're planning, we have laboratories, as you can see in the short video below, where you can play with some of these different excitations for different senses. And we are thinking maybe examples that I can give you of ideas or things that you can align the work with is experimental maps or models that analyze, for instance, how spatial audio is experienced beyond human ears. So how audio moves through other types of senses. Maybe designing some artificial intelligence feedback that is based on cognitive and emotional state of the users, right, in a different space. So these are all things that can basically change the way we feel and we work with AI through our senses. And yeah, that's how it for the challenges and directions.
Thank you, Fernando, from the Barcelona Supercomputer Center. We're now going to go to the part about the 4 hubs. One of those hubs is Sony CSL in Rome. And today we have Alessandro Londe with us to tell us more about the hubs and also the residency planning.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. So yeah, I am Alessandro Londe from Sony Computer Science Lab in Rome. And actually, I'm a part of one of the 4 hubs that related to the STARS A project. And so maybe we can start with the first slide. Okay, thank you. So actually, as Leah mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, the STARS A project is composed by 8 entities, 8 institutions in Europe. Okay, in this slide, there are 5 countries. Actually, you can see only 4. There are several institutes from Germany, Italy, as I say, Sony CSL in Rome, Slovenia with PINA, it's a lab for art and science, and Spain with Supercomputer Center and EPICA, Frudelsbaus cultural centers. And also there is InfoArt in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, which is the 5th country involved in this project. So what is a hub? Hub is just a bunch of experts and facilities that can take care of all the problems related to any one of the challenges that Fernando explained a few minutes ago. And so each one of the 10 artists that will pass the final selection will be related to one of these entities. And as you can see in the next slide, you can have, let's say, a relationship with the experts of the place where you're working with in, but the hub in some way is has the main responsibility to connect your work with all the other researchers and experts all over the institutions that are into STARS A. So once the selection process will be end, we will have 10 artists distributed in all these 8 places, and for the 4 hubs. And the full work period will be of 10 months, starting from the December 1st, 2023, until the end of September 2024. And in this 10 months, we decided to divide in 3 main parts. So the first part will be related to interaction between artists and researchers and scientists and technologists and other artists which are who are a part of their hubs, in order to refine, to go into details about the main idea of the workflow they intend to perform in all the period. And the second part will be related to how to build, how to make a prototype, how to produce something for the final exhibition, the final workshop that will be held after the end of this part. And finally, from July 2024 until the end of September, this period will be devoted to the presentation and dissemination of your work. So there are going to be several interactions with general public and the stakeholders and experts in the local place where you're working in. And all these interactions will be documented, and they will be very, very useful in order to exploit and to let the people around us know what is the real value of this project, which is not only science, not only arts, but the real intersection between them. Each one of the artists will have several people around them that can be supportive and helping for the full process. In particular, they will be not driven innovation catalysts. So each artist will have one, say, a personal angel, which will be his main interaction during this period. And also, there will be several other experts from all the hubs which are related to the challenge and to the project you will submit. So you can imagine that behind each artist there will be a kind of social structure that will be supportive and integrating all the possible interesting topics or necessities, both from the technology and science side. As I mentioned, the residency will start on December 1st, and there will be probably in mid-December or in mid-January a kickoff meeting from all the people working in a specific place in order to start interacting between the artists involved in this project. And also, this will be it is very important for all of us that all the artists will be interacting each other all over the period. This is very important in order to contaminate each other, in order to have an exchange of knowledge and intuitions that can be really useful for everybody. So we expect that all the artists will work at least 2 days a week for all the 10 months, virtually, I mean, wherever they prefer to stay. But for each period, so each one of the 3 periods I already mentioned, it will be very important to have at least 3 to 5 days in presence in the institution where they are working with. Because in our opinion, it's very important, not only for technological or technical reasons, but also to have a direct interaction is very, very useful and allows to perform a much better work. In our experience, we are not at the first edition of STARTS, and we know that interactions are very, very important and formative. Also, we will require a kind of journal from each artist. So every, let's say, 1 month and a half, each artist should write down a journal with a specific template that we are going to give you in order to describe the creative activity our interactions between science and arts, art and technology, and so on and so forth. This will be very, very super interesting for us because first we allow all the members of the consortium to have an idea of what you are doing and maybe give their contribution, their support if there are some problems and issues or whatever. But also because at the end, we would like to use this documentation in order to describe a kind of artistic trajectory. Basing on your journaling efforts, we maybe can extract what is somehow the trajectory of the creative trajectory of an artist through that. Let's see how we will go. So one of the most important moments in all this 10 months will be the A workshop that will be held in April 8, 2024 in Spain, where all 10 artists and all the say catalysts and experts behind each artist will meet together in order to confront, to show a common idea of what they are doing, and in order to prepare the final exhibition at the end of the main residencies. So it's going to be, if I remember, 3 days in a full-time workshop. It's going to be very, very exciting for all of us, and I'm sure that also for you. So feel free to ask everything you need at the end of this webinar. I will be here until the end. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, Alessandro. So next to what Alessandro just presented during the first webinar, all hubs also showed a short video to give you some more insight on their premises and what's happening there. So I can recommend you also to have a look at that. But also within the guide for applicants, there is a fact sheet where you can read more about what is present at each of these hubs. So let's go to the evaluation criteria and the matchmaking. There was already a first question about it in the chat. For this open call, we have decided to create a two-stage application process. For some of you, I see they have participated in various STARTS projects. This is a common thing. For others, it's new because every STARTS project has a different process. The first part of the open call, for which you're now applying with the template and expression of interest that is currently open, will result in a pre-selection. I will shortly go into the 3 different criteria we have identified for that part and on which you will be selected. And we will pre-select 20 artists, which will go to a second stage, a second phase within this open call process, which we call the proposal development and the matchmaking, which will already be partly a joint team effort between the artists and the different partners from the consortium. So let's go to the evaluation criteria. On generic level, there are 3 main criteria on which we will evaluate your applications, your expressions of interests. It's the artistic excellence, it's the motivation, and it's the fit, of course, with the S+TLARTS residency. So let's go into the first one, the artistic excellence. The artistic excellence is compiled out of 2 different parts. The first one is based on your CV and your artistic portfolio, so on your previous experience and how you can show us what you've already done and how that relates to different ways of bringing an idea into a real thing out in the world, showing also that you can go from a concept into the development stage of creating an artwork, creating a demonstrator, creating a performance with that. And the second one is on the artistic quality, how you reflect with that based on the use technology that you have and how you would like to do that within our current question and our current challenges within AIR. So if you go with that to the submission portal, the important part on which this criteria will evaluate you is the portfolio section, where you'll be asked to upload your CV. And then the second part, those will be inquiries for your portfolio. We ask you to select at least 2 different projects. And for each project, there are a few different questions on which we would like to get your insights, which will also give us some information on if you already collaborated previously with scientists or other people with a research background or more a business background, but also what your innovations ideas are about such a project and how you think that that experience is relevant for the AIR context to support your submission. So that's the first criteria. The second one is called the fit. It's the fit with the challenge and the direction, the ones that just has been presented by Fernando. And it's for us to understand why you want to work with that, how you integrate the different senses, the making the invisible visible of the AIR context, for us to see how we can also work together with you on this challenge, what motivates you in that aspect and what drives you to work with us in these directions. So in this part, it's very important to show us why you have chosen a certain direction and what you understand within a challenge, what you would be interested in exploring, and you actually also invite us to work with you on that journey. That also means we had some previous question, can I apply with an existing artwork? this will be new projects that we are developing together. It might be that there is previous research or previous work being done, which you can put into the portfolio section, which was the previous part. But for the AIR residencies, we are searching for new collaborative projects, which you with the team of AIR will be developing. And in the application form, this is the main section looking at the fit, where you select the direction and also the challenge, and you can describe your motivation for that, why you have selected this specific challenge. And since it's an expression of interest, it's more about your thoughts about it, how you interpreted this question, what you would like to do with that. We do not ask yet for a specific plan, for a specific budget or specific experimentations. That will come in the second stage. So in this one, it's really about your vision and your motivation on this part to work with it and what type of research you are passionate about. Don't forget that it's linked to the high performance computer center. So we also want you to reflect on how you want to work with these high performance computer power, how you want to use your data and what notions you have on that, possibly also from a more responsible point of view, what to do with all these amounts of data. And then the last criteria is related, of course, to the motivation, which goes a bit through all of them. One, of course, the collaboration. These are not standalone projects. We really aim for collaborative projects where we as a consortium want to support you and together with you also formulate the directions and decide on what will be the next steps within each of the projects. It's part of an EU project. That means that we are part of the EU context and want to contribute with all the knowledge and developments that we're doing in these projects to a greener and more safer EU. And last, of course, it's one of the STARTS projects where we want to merge art, science, and technology, which is embedded within our project, but also that we are interested in pursuing art-driven innovation. So within this call, we are searching for those ideas, but ideally one of these projects or two or three, or perfectly even if it is possible for all 10 of them, they would develop into next project after this. And that means that they could become new kind of artworks, but it might also be a business. It might also be research lines for research. It might be a policy brief. It might be societal activities. There are different kinds of directions in how such collaborative projects can evolve into art-driven innovations. Based on the motivation within the application form, you can say like with which hub, if you have a preference you would like to work with and why you would like to specifically work with that hub. That can be based on the tools they have, on the institutes, perhaps on prior research or scientists you know there. Please all mention that in this part. Don't feel obliged. It can also be that you have no preference, but that you're very interested in the theme, and then we will find a match for you afterwards. And it's also in this part where we'll ask you also to see what you want to do, what you expect from the collaboration from your side and what you want to add towards that. So that's for the evaluation criteria. Now, then we're finishing the first phase and we're going to do the selection and we're going to get 20 pre-selected candidates. And that opens the second part, which is called the matchmaking period. And that's a period from October 20 till November 10th, in which the 20 pre-selected artists will have the possibility to develop their residency plan. The aim of these matchmaking is for you to get to know the partners. So also the previous questions, when are we able to get in contact with the hubs that will be in this state? So we will going to make a schedule for you in which you're going to be linked to the hubs, to the different partners within the consortium. And you're going to have also assigned one of the catalysts to help you in creating these proposals and to work towards the jury day and prepare you for that. It's going to be a dense period. So if we're going to look to the timetable or the timeline, you're going to see that you're going to know on October 18th whether you're one of our pre-selected candidates. At that moment, we will also start working towards creating your schedule, which will be shared with you on the 20th. And that will also be a moment in which we hope that you will be able to attend those meetings in the period of the 23rd to the 27th. But on October 20th at 10 o'clock, so reserve that slot already, you're going to get a briefing on how the matchmaking period will work, what your personal calendar will be, and also what will be the selection criteria for the jury day. And in the matchmaking period, this is 1 week. In this week, you will have the opportunity to talk to the different people from the AIR residency, and we're going to make the matches by letting you talk to different partners from the consortium, and together you will reflect on the motivation you had and work towards these proposals for the jury day and see what type of experiments you want to do within this S++ARTS residency. And then on November 20th, we will ask you to submit your presentation for the jury day. And within this period between the 27th of October until the November 10th, you will get support from one mentor who will help you and challenge you and support you in creating this presentation. So looking at that within the overall timeline, there are a few important dates for you to take into account. First of all, the open call deadline. So that's the general open call. That's the only deadline we have. It's a hard deadline. We will not delay it. So everything should be in through our online portal at 5 o'clock. And the second moment you should be aware of course, are the parts within the matchmaking. Do reserve some flexibility in this matchmaking period and attend the matchmaking briefing if you're pre-selected. And then also make sure that you have the availability on the 13th and the 14th of November. You will be assigned a short time slot, and of course we'll try to accommodate as much as possible, but we need to have all the jury day presentations within these 2 days. The winner will be announced on the 17th, and then there is a short period in which all the signing of the documents will take place, and we can start the residencies at December 1st. And as Alessandro just mentioned, we aim to have the first physical kickoffs within mid-December and mid-January. So we have a lot of documentation for you ready online. These are all the different links. I will also share them in the chat. I can already answer a few of the questions in the chat. So one of them, can you apply while having a full-time job aside? No, that is not possible because we are asking for your availability at least 2 days a week. And the other one, are designers, design studios eligible for the call? Well, you can apply to the call either as an individual or as an entity. So if you are a collective, you can apply to the call as a collective, or it should be done by an individual. And if you are 2 designers which are not a collective, one of them should be applying to it. Do take into account that we're searching for artists. Of course, artist design can sometimes blur, but show us that you can create autonomous works without a brief. So that's something then to bring forward for you within the portfolio section.